One of the things that's popped up while you're in this trial is I got a call from the folks at the Discovery Channel, and they are wanting to do a show on the Trent DeGero homicide. Now, this is the second.
That was an assassination.
The Trent DeGero assassination. This is the second or third time that this particular case has been featured on a national level. America's Most Wanted featured it years ago. Also, it was featured on another show, which escapes me right now, on A&E. I can't think of what it was called, but anyway. So this will be another round. You know, at first when they contacted me, I told them that I guess the story's been told, and I just didn't see any reason to participate in it. But then we talked to the DeGeros, and they want it told. This is something that they want. So obviously we're going to cooperate now with these folks with the Discovery Channel.
That same group.
Yeah.
That same group has been trying to contact me, and I just frankly haven't had time to get back with them. I think. Well, did they interview you yet?
Yeah. They have interviewed me, and you know it's like I told them. I would never do an interview on a case without talking to the victims' survivors. You know, it's always about how the DeGeros feel about it. And they were kind enough to contact Mike and Ann and get their permission to do the story and get their cooperation. And, you know, as I said, Mike wants the story told. So I did the interview, and, you know, the way this works is they send producers. I think these guys are from Knoxville. The Discovery Channel is actually produced out of Canada, but they contract these producers that come in from Knoxville, camera guy, light guy, makeup guy.
Makeup?
Yeah, makeup guy. And they, he has the questions that they want to cover, and he asks them, and then, you know, you just sort of do the interview, and then he winds up shipping this all back to Canada where they put it together. So they interviewed me, they interviewed Mike and Ann, they're going to interview you.
Well, they want to, and I did the same thing that you did. I talked to Mike DeGero, and I said, "Oh, so what do you want to do on this? Do you want me to participate, to cooperate, or you want me to just
blow off?"
Yeah, just not talk to him. And he said, no. He said, I want you to talk to him. And so it'll be interesting. Now, I want to get back. You're a showbiz personality and have been since you've been, I guess, 15.
Mm-hmm. Face for radio. That's what I'm doing.
Well, that's not what I'm told. I'm told that you're one of these dreamboat kind of guys. But I mean, I am interested in this makeup business.
See, well, how do you focus on that? The makeup thing. The guy puts he's going to put a little makeup on you too.
Well, now wait.
Start at the top of the head. Work
now wait a minute. You see, my face goes all the way to the back of my head. So. I'm not much of a makeup
You say this,
guy.
and he'll slap that. Whatever makes you look the best, you're going to do. I know. Look how you're dressed. I'm the one in a t-shirt and jeans. Well, you're not fooling.
Yeah, but you're a radio jock.
Now I would spray tan. I wouldn't go to the tanning bed. That's not good for you.
Well, I'm not going to do that either.
No, I would at least spray tan. Okay. So yeah, you'll have to wear some makeup.
So how do they determine that some of these cases are interesting for their purposes?
Well, you know, I asked him that, and he said that they look for cases that significantly impact an entire community with this particular show. And that's sort of their focus, how it affected the community. And given the fact that this was a University of Kentucky football player that was, as you said, assassinated, and that it went unsolved for so long, and that it stayed with the community, and when you look at the reasons the crime was committed, it's just something that they think will be interesting to their viewers, and it's an opportunity to showcase. He did say this: things that go right in the criminal justice system, and I said, well, hold on for a second. Did you take a real good look at this case before you drove all the way here? Because I wouldn't classify it there. But he was speaking more from the fact that the case was solved, mm-hmm. and that the prosecution did everything they could, and that we got the conviction, and so everything that was out of our control was out of our control.
Well, what direction did he take you? So this might give me a tip on what he may be trying to get from me.
Well, obviously he wanted to talk to me from the investigator standpoint.
Mhm.
And it's funny because when they do these shows, they always want to talk to the lead investigator. And they really try to almost over-dramatize the fact that there was a quote-unquote lead investigator. And, and I tell them right off, it's not going to work, because the reality of it is we all know on these cases it's never one person, and it just isn't. You have one guy that's assigned the responsibility of coordinating the case, and he's the guy that the sergeant's going to go to and say, hey, have you solved that yet? Has it been solved? But that's about it. Other than that,
how did you get assigned that? Because this was Shane Ragland was the killer in this case, and how did you get assigned that? Because in fact you did break this case. Now you did it with the help of a lawyer in town, but you still were the guy responsible for getting the thing front and center.
Well, I got the case the same way that all the detectives in the homicide unit get a case. Everyone was out of town, and I got assigned to it. At the time, I was 28 years old, and I think this may be my first or second case that I was responsible for. And at the time, it was my turn in the box. There's an on-call list. They called, and I get a call from police communications about 1 o'clock in the morning, and they said, quite simply, Detective, we've had a homicide on campus involving a UK football player at a party. That's all we know. And the duty commander is asking that you respond to it. So from there, you get up, get out of bed, and drive toward downtown. Yeah, I remember thinking, since it was my first or second case that I was actually responsible for, almost a sense of relief from an investigator standpoint when they told me that the crime had occurred at a party, because I thought, there'll be a lot of people there, there'll be witnesses, this will be one that I should be able to actually, wrap up pretty quickly. Of course, we know what happened there. Get downtown, or get to campus where this occurred, and no one saw anything.
Well, as a matter of fact, Trent DeShiro was sitting on the porch of the house he and 3 or 4 or 5 other guys rented because it was his 21st birthday party. He was sitting in a chair. Next thing you know, he's been shot directly in the left ear.
Yeah, and the only witnesses, rarely do you have a case where you've got a witness that's sitting 6 feet from someone who gets shot, when it's a friend who wants to cooperate, who tells you, I didn't see anything. I'm telling you, I didn't see anything. I just heard a noise. And honestly, because you get to a scene like that, and we had several witnesses there, so the first thing you do is you say, look, let's go ahead and separate the witnesses. Let's take them downtown. We'll get them in an interview room. We'll talk to them individually, and we'll find out what everyone knows. And someone surely saw something, But after about 3 witnesses in, when I was talking to Sean Mann, and Sean Mann looked at me and said, hey, I was sitting 6 feet from him. I heard what I thought was a backfire of a car. I looked over at Trent, asked him if he heard it too. He was slumped over in the chair. I walked over to him, and then it was obvious to me that he'd been shot. And I called the police. We tried to help him, and I called the police. And he said, that's all I know. And then he looked at me and said, you are going to find out who did this, right? And I thought, wow, this is not good. And initially we thought that someone had simply walked on the side of the porch and just fired the shot and then ran behind the house. You got to develop some type of theory to get started, and that made the most sense. It wasn't until, I guess, a couple of days later that ballistics told us that it looked like it was a rifle that was involved in this and not a handgun. They realized the shot could have also occurred from across the street and from several locations.
As a matter of fact, it did.
And ultimately it did occur from a grassy knoll about 30 to 50 yards across the street. But at the time, we didn't know exactly where the shot came from. So you just sort of had to piece all this together. And, when you look at Trent, when you start into a homicide like this, you got to find a motive most of the time before you can find a suspect. And we both know what most of the time you can pick a category of a motive, and it's going to be, sex, drugs, money. And there wasn't anything like that in this case. I mean, Trent was just clean. He didn't have a relationship at that time because his whole relationship was football. That was his whole life. Wasn't involved in any drug activity. There wasn't a robbery. Wasn't any kind of gambling, anything like that. None of the usual vices. So as soon as we eliminated those issues, we had nothing. I mean...
Tune in to the following stations every Sunday to hear In Touch with Ray the DA and Officer Don. We hope you enjoyed the show. Stay tuned in for next week's episode.